The dream machine, not the brain machine, was conceived by artist, painter, writer Brian Gysin with Ian Somerville in the 60s during his experimental times with William Burroughs. And he says before he invented the dream machine, he was influenced by a time he had while driving down some things. And he says, I had a transcendental storm of colour vision today in the bus going to Marseille. We ran through a long avenue of trees and I closed my eyes against the setting sun. An overwhelming flood of intense bright colours exploded behind my eyelids, a multi-dimensional kaleidoscope whirling out through space. I was swept out of time. I was out in a world of infinite numbers. The vision stopped abruptly as we left the trees. Was that a vision? What happened to me? This is an extract from the diary of Brian Gysin in 1958, and subsequently he went on to invent the dream machine. And the dream machine consisted of a cylinder with holes cut in its sides at regular intervals, and it was placed on an ordinary record turntable set at 78 revolutions per minute. And a light bulb is suspended in the centre of the spinning cylinder. The light flickers at a frequency of 8 to 13 cycles per second, which corresponds to the alpha state. And the alpha state consists of like a brain orchestra of electrical signals, with which there's a state of relaxed and effortless alertness, often achieved during meditation states. The users of the dream machine could sit with their eyes closed against the flickering light and achieve these states. My own experience with this machine was an almost instant state of timelessness, and often I would sit and see vivid images in my mind's eye. In fact, I found I could leave it on in the room and it had the same effect, although it was sometimes disconcerting as the room began spinning with the patterns. I first discovered Brian Gysin through the seminal performance magazine Rapid Eye, along with Robin Grissel, Genesis Peorage, William Burroughs, Derek Jarman, etc., who seemed to be intent on discovering new ways of altering states of consciousness. Indeed, they reminded me of my own vain attempts as a teenager with 2 cut-up ping-pong balls attached to my eyes and white noise from an old cassette recorder pumping into my ears. Endless hours of reading the Unexplained magazine and searching the night skies of Dartmoor for alien visitors. Gysin was trying to find ways of achieving these states without taking mind-expanding drugs, as he'd seen the damaging results of many of his contemporaries down this pathway. At the same time as Rapid Eye and my group TESTCARD were performing various experimental performances, including Ouija board performances and kind of radio sort of stuff. I met an old crazy inventor or developer of healing machines in London's Camden Arches. Tony Bassett built theremins, Mikulski multi-wave oscillators, and these brain machines. He was interested in Tesla's experiments with transferring power through the air without wires, and William Reich's Gorgon accumulator, which was a box which could be charged up like a battery with people literally having sex inside. The energy could be used for healing. Anyway, this inspired me to create my own kind of brain machine. This consisted of a number of photic glasses connected to a central frequency program I'd written, which also generates audio brain frequencies, so you can feel it. If you don't have the glasses on, you can also feel the audio vibrations. These are also brain frequencies. So it's rather like tuning a radio into certain stations. I wanted to tune the body on a mass scale and observe the results. Usually the glasses are controlled by a person connected to an electroencephalogram or EEG machine, which measures and makes visible brain patterns. And I found that Buto dancers have immense control over their mind and bodies, and they're useful for this purpose. So tonight, Breuil was connected via an EEG machine to the brain machines. So perhaps around this time, I'd also started practicing the Vipassana meditation each day, and discovered that the brain machine had a similar effect on the consciousness, my own conscious fluctuations of my day. The brain machine is an almost instant meditation tool, and I found a useful introduction to observing the mind. The effect doesn't last, however. When the glasses are off, slowly the frequencies return to their tidal chaotic state. In fact, the brain machine on a purely chemical level resets the sodium-potassium levels in the brain, with which, if we don't get enough sleep, the body can't go through its regeneration cycles. In 1959, the filmmaker Friedrich Jürgensen discovered human voices on his reel-to-reel tape recorder while recording birdsong in the countryside, devoid of any human presence but his own. In 1964, after 5 years of research, he published his findings in Voices from the Universe and coined the term electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP, whereupon he felt it was possible to speak indirectly with spirits and they would leave results on magnetic recorders. Indeed, at the time Tesla was experimenting with radio transmissions, he believed that the radio interferences were sounds from the beyond. That's not to say that this phenomenon does not exist now, as we tend to take so much for granted, almost like a second-hand inherited understanding of our world. In 1965, Konstantin Roldiv, the Latvian psychologist and philosopher, visited Jürgensen, concluded that the phenomenon was genuine and started his own experiments in Bad Kreuznach in Germany. In 2000, we, TESTCARD, using the EVP method, composed a soundtrack to Murnau's version of Nosferatu, using only sounds recorded in haunted spaces in Brighton, London and Paris. After people reported feeling disturbed while listening to the recordings, I began to theorize that certain sound vibrations could act like portals or doorways in suitable buildings, replaying these events in certain conditions. The human body picks up these frequencies in much the same way as a radio receiver. I propose that it may be possible to tune the consciousness to somehow prepare it to detect these memories or energies using the brain machine in a group situation as this, in which the experiments continue. And the connection with Brian Gysin, Tony Bassett, Tesla, Jürgensen, maybe through the American Navy as well, is using Tesla's experiments with invisibility in the 1930s and his idea of a unified field theory, an attempt to verify Einstein's general theory of relativity with electromagnetism, connecting magnetic fields with time and space. In October 28, 1943, the US Navy and Project Rainbow used massive magnetic fields, or EMF, on the USS Eldridge in Philadelphia. The Lukovsky multi-wave oscillator, which Tony Bassett redeveloped, when switched, succeeded in vanishing the entire ship from visible and radar view for 4 hours. Sailors reported having travelled through time, subsequently died or became unstable with terrible side effects. The experiment used EMF, electromotive forces which are believed by today's ghost hunters to be akin to electrical motorways for ghosts to travel. It is known that EMF forces disorientate the brain to experience hallucinations, a reason why houses with large overhead cables have been directly linked to suicides, and it has long since been mass production of easily available sensitive recording equipment such as infrared cameras that more photographic evidence exists. If it had been said that it is just a matter of time in which we'll become used to the fact that there is something else out there. Personally, using the brain machine and meditating, I've come to understand the biggest phenomenon is not out there, it is within, and so close that if I stop one breath or one heartbeat, I could experience it at first hand. The biggest mystery is to be alive. So thank you to Breuil, netally Schlosser, Julian Ronnefeldt, Barnaby and Seamus and Radio Tesla. And if there's any questions, then now is the time.